On Saturday, May 22nd, we had a showdown for supremacy and undisputed at the 140-pound junior welterweight division between Jorge Ramirez and Josh Taylor. Let's talk about what happened. What's good, YouTube? Stormy B-Man, and I'm back with a post-fight review on a fight that I didn't have a chance to cover immediately in a post-fight show. Before we get started, I'd like to say shout out to the LDBC, the Lions Den boxing community, and Liberated Perspective, the third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It was on. Ramirez versus Taylor, the battle for undisputed at junior welterweight. Saturday, May 22nd, it was live on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Undisputed is something that is so rare in today's modern day boxing for a multitude of reasons. These fighters do not come together for unifications for undisputed. But this night, we had Jose Ramirez coming together with Josh Taylor. Jose putting on his WBC and WBO titles, Josh Taylor bringing his WBA and IBF titles in a unification for undisputed, something that hadn't been seen at that weight class since Terrence Bud Crawford vacated the weight class several years ago. This was going to pit the best of the division against one another. People had long thought that Josh Taylor was the best at the division simply because he had gone through the Super Series tournament and won the Muhammad Ali trophy as he defeated Regis Prograis in the finale of that tournament. But there were many on this side of the world that felt like Jose Ramirez was the guy who would be on top after the dust settled. He being the more experienced professional as far as fights under his belt. Ramirez came into this fight with a record of 26-0, 17 KOs. He battled and he fought the best that was available at the time before meeting Taylor. His rugged, typical Mexican style with the left hook to the body, left hook to the head, pressure fighter, looking to have high energy and high volume output offensively, he would be favored against most fighters in his weight class and division. And understandably so. After seeing him take on the likes of Victor Postol and Maurice Hooker, we've seen Ramirez break opponents down and do quite a bit of damage offensively, making his opponents wither as he wore them down with pace and output during his fights. He also showed a bit of machismo in there. When the going would get tough, Ramirez would get going. Now with Josh Taylor coming into this fight, a proven fighter who, after defeating everyone that he fought in that Super Series tournament, Taylor was also seen as an experienced fighter who had something to offer offensively. And maybe with what was happening recently with the fighters out of the UK and from that side of the world, people were not having much confidence in the fighters from across the pond, because many of them have had lackluster efforts as of late. Those who have challenged Canelo Alvarez, those who have challenged some of the other champions that we have seen in the lower weights, the Carl Framptons. There's a question about the heart and output for some of the UK fighters. Though he's a Scotty, Taylor is fighting out of the UK, but he has a bit more under the hood than most of the UK fighters. When I first saw this young man fight, I said that he was a little bit different. Reminds me a little bit of a combination of former champs Stevie Collins and Joe Calzaghe, but he's much smaller than both men. But his fight and his fighting spirit is of their ilk. With a record of 17-0 with 13 KOs, we were seeing the best of what the UK had to offer coming into this fight in Josh Taylor. And boy, did he not let us down. Taylor, his style being that mirrors Ramirez's, but from the UK point of view. His power is decent, his chin is pretty sturdy, his style is also crowd pleasing because he's not afraid to mix it up and engage. He showed in his fight against Regis Prograis, after suffering an eye injury in that fight, he continued to soldier on and won the fight despite having one eye to boot by the end of the fight. This is the type of champion that you would like to see when he's going under fire, when trials are presented, when there's some kind of test to be asked of a fighter. And that's what happened in this fight, where Ramirez began to put the pressure on Taylor, but Taylor was up to the task. He used his boxing, he moved on angles, and he was able to bully Ramirez. It was interesting because you could see there were moments in the fight where Ramirez was looking to the referee instead of focusing on what Josh Taylor was doing. And it also seemed to be a little bit of daylight where it gave Taylor insight as to what was going on with Ramirez psychologically. He took full advantage of that. After dropping Ramirez early in the fight, he then dropped him again a second time after working on the inside and using a veteran move of shouldering Ramirez off and then firing a shot of an uppercut behind it, dropping Ramirez flat on the seat of his pants. You could see that Ramirez was troubled by the way that Taylor was fighting, but what Ramirez didn't do was continue his onslaught to the body. His body punches were very effective in this fight, and Taylor was really having trouble with that as he would move and try to get out of the way and try to get his breath. But you could see Ramirez was not able to capitalize on what his strengths were, whereas Taylor was more out front with his action and with the physical presence in the ring. This was a very entertaining fight. If you're a fan of either fighter, you wanted to see your guy do more. As far as Taylor, I wanted him to put more of his output and punches in the last championship rounds, but apparently he suffered hand injury and was pulling back from that because of this. As far as Ramirez is concerned, though he was trying to apply the pressure, I don't think he worked the body nearly enough and did not work behind the jab enough. These young fighters of today have no idea how significant the jab is as a part of what they do in the ring. It will open up everything. You have to have confidence and belief in your tools, and you have to understand that the tools are there for a reason. You always need a key to unlock a lock. So the jab is that key for you in a fight. If more fighters took stock in their jabs, you could actually see greater fights, because what will happen is it will open up avenues for other things, even setting up knockouts. But some of these younger fighters of today just do not believe in what the jab is for. This was a fight of attrition, and I think that Taylor imposed his will on Ramirez more than vice versa. But Ramirez should not hang his head. What he needs to do is just look at the tape of the fight and look at what he did not do, because it was more of what he didn't do than what Josh Taylor did. But hats off to Josh Taylor, who came out of this and is now the undisputed champion at junior welterweight. The world is now his oyster. There are plenty of options on the table, even to go up in weight, which I don't think he should do at this time. He should take advantage of what's there, because there are still opponents that he can face at 140. Great fight, maybe even a rematch in a few fights between these two gentlemen. Leave thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts were on this fight. This is Stormy B-Man. That's all I have for you at this time. Until the next time we speak, peace.